Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today, I have the pleasure to chat with American country singer-songwriter Dylan Jacobson. In this news episode, Dylan shares more about his records I Am, From Where I Began, life growing up in Seattle, Washington, desire to play shows in Alaska, most humbling experience he's had, favorite moment in life, something specific he's grateful for, admiration for Chris Stapleton, Eric Church, Tom Petty, and more. Now, with that being said, hope I join my conversation with Dylan. Dylan, hello.
Hey, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
I mean, it's good to have you here on the show, and we're going to talk about a lot of things, but um, I just want to shortly touch base. I guess of what we just talked about before we started recording. We talked about the cruise that we were recently on. We went to Seattle first, then we stopped into Alaska, and then we took a whole another separate trip to Western Canada through Calgary and Banff and Lake Louise. It's a great place if you haven't been there. But Seattle, I have to say, because you're I guess you're from there, and it's a beautiful city. Tell us more about Seattle and what is the city like, I guess.
Yeah, well, first off, I want to say I'm jealous of this cruise that you took because out of all the states that I've been to and played, Alaska is one of the only ones we haven't been to, which is surprising because I'm from Washington, right? So that's the closest you can get with as far as states go. But yes, I mean, growing up in Seattle, when you think of country music, it's not the first state that pops into mind for sure. Um, but man, I grew up probably about 30, I mean, depending on traffic. Traffic in Seattle gets pretty gnarly. But like 30, 45 minutes outside of the city, in a little town called Snohomish. And I listened to some country music growing up, but really what got me into country music was the storytelling. And I've always been a huge songwriter, and um, yeah, I feel like I was exposed to that as a kid a lot growing up in the Northwest. There's so much music that has come out of the Seattle area, especially if you think back to I'm sure you can think 90s grunge, and I grew up on a lot of rock and roll. So um, yeah, I mean, that's really where it all started for me back in my home state of Washington.
I mean, it's a great place if you haven't been to Seattle. There's a lot of great places you can go there. Um, I guess a lot of the places that I would probably suggest is obviously first and foremost, obviously you have to visit the famous Pike Place Market or Farmers Market. That is the place to be if you want to do all your shopping because there's not only a farmers market there, there's restaurants, but also if you go up from the Pike Place Farmers Market there's stores on the upper end as well, and you can also visit and shop around there. It's a really good, I guess it's a really good location for a farmer's market because it's near the water, but you're also near the restaurants and you're also near a lot of the shopping areas. I mean, have you been to Pike Place Farmers Market
I
and
have, I have. I will take.
what I mean, what is the number one thing that you've bought there that you do not regret purchasing?
Oh, I don't know if I've ever purchased anything from. I remember we used to go there growing up. Like the schools would take field trips there. You're in elementary school, and they're like, everyone's going to Pike Place Market, or But I don't think I've ever actually bought anything from Pike Place Market. Have you bought anything from Pike Place Market?
Yes, I have.
And what would that be?
I bought two records.
Oh, there you go. There
Yeah,
you
I
go.
bought two records. I bought Lionel Richie's Dancing on the Ceiling vinyl. And I also bought Merle Haggard's Farewell to Elvis Presley record.
Wow.
Um, which is really cool. It's so cool. If you haven't been to Pike Place Farmers Market, it's like I don't know how to describe it. It's obviously Seattle is obviously climate friendly, but they also really love the message of seafood.
Yeah.
And clearly you can see that through the water and their animals. But what I want to suggest is the farmers market. There's also not a farmers market. There's also, if you go inside of it, there's a whole downstairs level where you can actually see a lot of the stores. But it's really cool how they designed it because it's like you can go into one hallway and you think it's just one store. But when you go in that one hallway, it's a whole branch of another stores.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like a zigzag and it's almost like a corn maze. Like you have to go through like hallway to find different things. And I felt it's so cool, and there's a lot of people there, and it's a great place to be. And obviously, we're going to be talking about country music more importantly. I mean, you've had a lot of, I guess, experiences in your career already, but you've also had great music that you've released along the way. I mean, there's stuff from where I began to I am to Set Fire to the Night. Um, I mean, let's talk about from where I began because that's a really cool record. Talk to me about how that first came to be.
Yeah, that was, I've been putting out music ever since I can remember. I started in middle school, and from where I began was the first time, you go through all these phases growing up, you go through all these phases of songwriting, different styles of music and everything. This was my first full-length country record. It was literally the beginning of this chapter, this whole new, what would be the beginning of, where I am today. This whole new chapter in my life. And so that record for me is a special one, because it is that first one. Um, so many songs on that record from where I began, Silverado, um, Back to Yesterday, Torn Down Town. There's so many songs on the record that, at this point now, I've probably, it's almost been 10 years since I wrote some of those songs. But, Silverado, especially, that one really changed things, changed the game for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and obviously Silverado was a big one of the songs on that record. And you've also talked highly about Billy Decker,
Yeah.
who was mixing. I guess Silverado was your debut single to country radio. And you said Billy's mixes are one of a kind and elevates each song to their full potential. If you look at the people he's worked with, Chris Young, Sam Hunt, Palmer Lee, you can hear in each hit that he's the guy that makes your song stand out. I mean, what is it about Billy Decker that makes you appreciate him so much? And what has he done for your music career?
I've been working with Billy ever since that record. That was my first one I had done with him. And something that I love so much about him, because I mean, pretty much at the point that I send a song to Billy, it's especially my last two records, Set Fire to the Night and I Am. Those were ones that I recorded myself in my home studio, and I spent so much time just crafting these songs. Basically, right here in this room, right here. This is my studio at home, and so by the time I send it to him, I've listened to the song so many times, right? I've just ingrained how it sounds in my brain. I send it off to him. He sends it back to me with a mix, and I'm like, new life, right? It's got this brand new, fresh sound that it's like I'm hearing it for the first time. It's a special moment.
Yeah, and I guess to echo on that, I mean, obviously there's got to be some inspirations before you even started creating music. I mean, can you talk to me more about the inspirations? Because I know that you've idolized people like Chris Stapleton, and Eric Church and those people. I mean, was there one record, I guess, or what was the one record that you bought, the first ever record that you purchased that you kind of just said, yeah, that's the one that started my whole career?
Like when I was a kid, like childhood, early childhood.
I guess if you want to put it that way, it's like, what is the one record that you purchased that sort of ignited that passion in the first place?
Some pop into my AC/DC Back in Black. I remember listening to that, seventh grade Dylan, maybe before seventh grade, and just wanting to get up on stage. I remember seeing there's a band called Jet that I remember seeing for the first time almost 20 years ago now. And they're kind of in that same realm as AC/DC, but those, seeing those bands live and how they just took, I don't even know how to describe the feeling. It just, it's like I almost saw myself up on that. Like, I want to be that guy up on that stage, right? Like, just seeing how they moved that crowd. And the records just blew me away. And from there, as we all do, I went through so many different phases. I still love listening to that stuff. I still, some of my favorites to this day are Bruce Springsteen, Tom Petty, John Mellencamp, Eric Church, Chris Stapleton, and something that kind of goes through that whole lineage of artists is the songwriting, and that's really what has inspired me since day one.
Absolutely. And I really want to start off this interview. And we've talked already at great length about your music and stuff, but I want to start off this interview by playing a little game with you. It's called How Deep Will You Go? It's three levels. Level one is icebreakers. Level two is confessions. Level three is just getting deep. Um, and I really want to pick your brain about this, I guess, this whole journey for you. And the first question was, what is something specific that you're grateful for and why?
I'm grateful for, I feel like that answer changes the more the older you get. So for so many years I was grateful to be um making music for a living, and I still am to this day. I feel like that, as you get older, I'm about to hit 30 here. I'm grateful for the opportunity to, through my songs, change people's days, change people's lives. Anytime I hear somebody reach out and say, don't stop, keep doing what you're doing, like the messages that you're spreading of positivity and hope, and those are themes that I write about for myself, and I hope that those translate to other people. But when I hear those stories of people that are healed, it's like a therapeutic way for them to um, change their mindset. I feel like that is something special. I think that's something I'm grateful for.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me asking, I mean, you just talked about, I guess, like feeling that appreciation from people who really use that as a healing mechanism. I mean, is there, I guess, a point in time in your career where you kind of realize when you write songs, is it how therapeutic is that sort of writing process of being busy and having that mentality of keep writing songs, keep writing songs? Is there a point in time in your career where you kind of like just felt like it's just a whole therapy session for you?
Oh, 100%. Especially the last couple of years, when COVID hit, all the tour dates were canceled. Um, I spent a lot of time writing songs about my mental health and, just being home and experiencing life in a whole new way. Because music for the last decade, I've been touring and touring. We were grinding. 2019, we did a whole radio tour of it was like 108 radio stations in 3 months, like 90 hotel rooms, 20,000 miles in a rental car. We hit Hertz Gold stat or platinum, not gold, presidential status. And so like all these things, like we were going, 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 going. We had um, at that point we had played 45 states in the US, and we had just came off of a little tour in Australia that we did. So life was on the road. Life was like literally we were going, going, going. And so when all of that stopped in 2020, I was able to experience life in a whole new way. And we bought a house and we got pets, and really just lived life. We started living life off the land and living life at home and experiencing the simple things in life. And that's something that I never really paid attention to, and kind of took for granted. And I really I've grown to, it's a huge, huge part of my life now.
Yeah, and I guess the second question on I guess on this game is, what is the most humbling experience you've had?
Humbling. I'd say the music industry in general is very humbling, right? Like you put in more than you get, right? Like, so I feel like the if you're in this looking for validation from others, that's a bonus. At the end of the day, um, you got to be doing it because you love it, and that's still why I'm doing it to this day. I'm doing it because of my passion for the art and for the music and for the healing that comes with that music. But yeah, there's always going to be the critics out there. There's always going to be, the bigger you get, the more cynics there are out there, and at the end of the day, it's about what makes you feel good, and if that message is going to spread to other people, that's just a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the last question on this game is describe your favorite moment in life and how does it feel now?
Favorite moment in my life? That's a good question. It's hard to like culminate it down to one moment. um, uh, I'm gonna keep it music related because we're talking music here because you can pull things outside of music, but since we're specifically talking music here, let's say my favorite moment. Um, it's got to be okay. So 2015, we were I was still living in Washington at the time, and I got the opportunity, and this was one of the first festivals we ever played um, in country music. It's the Watershed. Have you heard of Watershed? It's one of the Live Nation country music festivals, and they have it do you know, are you familiar with the Gorge Amphitheater in Washington?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, if you grew up in the Northwest, it's like the Red Rocks Amphitheater of the North. It's right on the edge of like this canyon drop off. It's the most gorgeous state. I grew up seeing shows there. I saw Tom Petty there like a couple years prior. Um, and this is one of the elite country music festivals in the country. And so having the opportunity to not only play such a high level festival, but to do it in my home state on, for me, what was, one of the biggest stages imaginable for me. Uh, I remember going to shows there and being like, someday I could only imagine to play something like this. So to be able to do that, I think that was a really special moment.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I want to talk about since we talked about from where I began the album, I want to talk about the album I Am that released in 2019. Um, I mean, before you even released this, you said the next release is really special to me. We titled it I Am, and it really incorporates who I am to myself and everyone around me. The stories resonate true to me in my own life, but are also the stories I hear so many times from y'all. We're taking just a little bit of extra time on it to get it right, but I'm very excited to start showing you the pieces of who I am. I mean, and then obviously, this whole record is, I guess, a concept of autobiographical. And I guess how does that sort of I don't know how to say this. How does that form of concept come through in your music? Is that just something that you've always wanted to put out to speak about your music, or was it just something that just came about naturally?
I think more so something that came about naturally. I started cutting songs for the record. I'm trying to think of what was like the first piece that we started to turn it into that concept of showing all these little pieces of who I am. It could have stemmed from the title track I Am, but this was I mean, it was a special record in a lot of ways. It was the first time that I was majorly like putting out a major release that was recorded entirely in my own studio. I was playing all the parts and which is something I grew up doing, but obviously like when you're a kid, um, that's more so, you get 10 people to listen to it. You get your friends at school to buy the album, slinging CDs, but it's on an entirely different level at this point. And so that was a really special record in so many ways. I was able to do it in the way of my upbringing. And so by doing that, it was kind of um, a concept record in that way, as well as through the songs that we were the different chapters that were being told through that record.
Yeah, and were there any instruments, I guess, that like played a huge part in building those two records, I guess, from where it began and I am? Were there like an instrument specifically that sort of spoke highly about, I guess, in those two records overall?
Oh, I so back in what year did I get that thing? 2013, 2014. I bought my own pedal steel guitar, and that is a brutal instrument to learn how to play. That is, I don't know if you've ever watched someone try to play that, but you got this table basically in front of you with a neck of 10 strings and some random tuning. And then you're moving your knees and you're moving your feet on these pedals. It's a workout for your brain. And over the years, I've crafted my own pedal steel playing into these records, and so I'd say um, that was definitely a highlight on those two.
And obviously, I can see the dobro that you have in the background.
Yeah,
You know how to play that?
I do. I over the years I've accumulated a lot of instruments. It's hard to the more instruments you get, it's hard to play them all on a daily basis. But I have a lot of them sitting around. So when I'm going through that creative process, I'm able to uh, pull them out and be like, let's try this on the record. And I've been playing guitar for over 20 years now, and so uh, kind of all those other instruments just kind of feed into that guitar that I started when I was 8 years old.
Yeah, I was curious if you want to give us a little taste of that instrument and what it sounds like, because for people who haven't even known what it sounds like, dobros are just amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
it's pretty
like
great. I'm going to be honest, it's probably not in tune at the moment.
yeah, no problem then. I mean, obviously you've had a lot of accomplishments. You've been named one to watch by Taste of Country, named one of 10 new country artists to watch by The Boot in 2017, two top 40 Billboard indicators plus top 20 music row singles, with the release of I Am, 108 stop radio tour, high energy touring schedule spanning 45 states plus three continents. And you said we've been a lot of places and met so many faces. It truly is the most inspiring thing you can do, setting foot on the road and experiencing life right in the flesh. I mean, if there was out of those 45 states plus three continents, what would you say is the most favorite place you played?
uh,
Aside from Seattle.
yeah, yeah. Aside from that watershed moment, I'd say the further you get from home, like the the more incredible that feels, right? Because that's the further that your music is translated. And so for me, I'd say that the furthest we've gone from home is Australia. And being able to literally play your music on the entire other side of the earth is incredible. And being able to go there and see people that have been appreciating your music and singing your words in the crowd and showing up to see the shows is a feeling unlike any other.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, on the cruise, I mean, I remember seeing that I remember watching this I guess band called Nearly Rich Band.
Mhm.
They're Australian, and they play country music. I remember seeing them play. What was it again? I think it was Down to the Honky Tonk by Jake Owen, and then they performed Working Man Blues by Merle Haggard. And I guess I don't know if it's like a Australian thing for them to play country music, or if it's just country music roots or the love for country music for anyone that's listened to it. Um, it's cool to see how it's now generated so much attention, and people have started to do it themselves, and play music, abroad, not just in Nashville or in southern places. I mean, Seattle, I don't, it's not a southern place whatsoever. But I mean, you're starting to see people do things like what you're doing, playing country music on because they love it, and not just because they wanted to put out country music for people to hear it. Um, so I mean, there's got to be so many songs that you've probably listened to. I mean, out of Chris Stapleton and Eric Church, if there was one song, like a song from each of those artists, Tom Petty, Chris Stapleton, or Eric Church, that you've gravitated towards the most, what would those be?
Ooh, okay, Tom Petty. I've been doing a cover of Free Fallin' for years. And so that's always been a special one for me. But I love his Wildflowers record. I think that that whole record is an absolute masterpiece. So honestly, anything off that record, Wildflowers included. Um, Chris Stapleton. Oh, there's something about his voice, man. It's so sultry. I love it. I would say, what is the song that really spoke to me? I feel like when everyone heard Tennessee Whiskey, like everyone knew he was going to be a star, right? Um, and then Eric Church. I remember hearing him do Springsteen. Um, and that spoke to me because I'm Springsteen since he's my number one. Bruce Springsteen's my number one for sure. So that really spoke volumes to me, that track right there.
Yeah, Chris Stapleton, I guess I've had so many favorites from his records. If there was one that I would choose, I'd probably say More of You. That's a really good song. Like
Yeah,
I just started, like, I think not even that long ago, I started like practicing the lyrics to that song.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, More of You is such a great song. I guess it is a whole love story of him and his wife and his relationship with her. And it's cool how that resonates with so many people nowadays. Listen to those types of songs on a daily basis. I mean, now that we're wrapping up this interview, I mean, I've asked this question to so many people that have come on this podcast, and it's given them a challenge to answer it. Um, if there was one artist that's already in heaven that you would want to play a song with, who would that be, and what song would you play?
Tom Petty for sure. Tom Petty, hands down. What would I want to? I'd love to do. Um, I don't want to say I want to say Free Falling, but I don't want to see Free Falling at the same time. Because I've been doing Free Falling live for so many years. I would love to do have you know um, some sort of collaboration with him on that. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with Free Falling. Final answer.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if there was, I guess, one more question for you. If there was, what would you say is the most memorable mountaintop moment, like the kind that makes you want to go home and call your parents about?
Like mountaintop moment, like a high point in my life career.
I guess so, like the highest point.
Oh man. I've been super proud of a lot of the things that we've accomplished on the newest record, Set Fire to the Night. Like we just put out a music video for Get Back that was super special to me and my upbringing and getting back to the records that I grew up on. So I was super excited for them to see that for the first time. As I was when we released Six and put out the music video for that one, and that one was I had a lot of childhood footage in there and about it was me performing on a stage, telling my future self that you're going to be able to do all these things when you're older, and um, all your dreams, all your wildest dreams everything's going to work out just the way it was supposed to. And so, being able to bring these stories and these, true stories to life through songs and through videos, on this latest record has truly been a high point musically for me.
Absolutely. Well, it's the end of our time together, but thank you so much for chatting with me. I had such a blast. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with American country singer-songwriter Dylan Jacobson. You can follow him on all social media platforms. I've been your host, Jigme Kelsang. Thanks for tuning into the show, but also you can follow me on all social media platforms as well, and find me on all podcast streaming platforms too. Thanks so much for chatting with me, and we'll hopefully reconnect soon here. So I've been your host, Jigme Kelsang. Thanks for tuning into the show.